Hello and welcome to another booktube video from me, Lauren, from Lauren and the Books. And I almost filmed this video in slow-mo just then, so imagine what that would have been like. I almost did an impression of it then, but I held back. Today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favourite books for the year of 2016. It's 2017 now, I've done my corner. Hello, Lauren. And this says the books. And I've got my cloth bound classics here. Oh, it's looking lovely. It feels very bright actually and colourful. I'm quite into it. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favourite books of 2016. Bit of a mix of everything in here. Bit of non-fiction, graphic novel, picture book, fiction, classics. It's all in there. And we'll get going with book number 10, which is The Fox and the Star by Coralie Bickford-Smith. So Coralie Bickford-Smith is the illustrator who does the front covers of the Penguin cloth bound classics, of which I have some here. This is Wuthering Heights. This is not my favourite actually. I like Little Women, which is down here with the scissors, and I'm Far From the Madding Crowd has got beads on. You can't see, that's too far away. But she is the illustrator that does these. So this is very much, the cloth bound is the same as the Penguin cloth bound classics, and she does the illustrations. And this is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful story about a fox and a star. The colour palette throughout is absolutely gorgeous. It's these like greys and blacks and blues, and then just so often, so the first bit sort of, this is the blue, and then every so often you get this gorgeous flash of orange, and here we go with the leaves and things like that. It's a really touching story, absolutely beautifully done. I shed a tear when reading it. David, I believe David and I read this out to one another, which was lovely, and it was just lovely. I think if you've got little ones, this is a real treat for the little ones. Obviously keep it safe because it's beautiful, but I just loved it, and I think it was Waterstone's Book of the Year 2015, so it's very, very popular anyway, but it was beautiful, it was lovely, and it couldn't not be in my top 10 books of 2016. It normally belongs up on my shelf up there, and that's where I'm going to return it to because it's just so pretty. So that's book number 10. Book number 9 is, and this is the first book of this author that appears in this top 10, is Names for the Sea, Strangers in Iceland by Sarah Moss. So I read this off the back of a book called A Year of Living Danishly by Helen Russell, which may or may not be appearing later on. And after I read that book, I wanted to, which is about moving to Denmark, I'll go into more details later. I wanted to read something similar, so I wanted to read a non-fiction about somebody moving to another country, preferably Scandinavia. And Mercedes said to me, have you tried Names for the Sea, Strangers in Iceland by Sarah Moss? I had not, but I love this. This is about Sarah Moss, who moves to Iceland with her husband and her 2 young boys for a job there. What I loved about this is it didn't sugarcoat Iceland. It didn't make me want to pack my bags and get to Iceland and move there instantly in the way that Year of Living Danishly did. But it was real. And the description is beautifully, beautifully written. Sarah Moss is an amazing author, and the Tidal Zone, I'm giving away all my secrets now. The Tidal Zone, which is also in this top 10, was amazingly written, beautiful and wonderful. And this was just all the information, like all the non-fiction information about moving to Iceland that I wanted to know, with the addition of it being written beautifully. And I could honestly look out my window and think about Iceland, because that is how amazingly written she has done this. The description is just absolutely incredible. What I also liked about it is that Sarah Moss lived in Canterbury when she decided to take the decision to move to Iceland, which is somewhere I used to live when I was a student, and she sort of talked about places that I knew, and she went to a bookshop in Whitstable that I love, for instance, and yeah, it was just like extra little feels, extra little fizzies in me, because I knew the places she was talking about. I would really recommend this if people are interested in books about people moving to other countries, which I seemingly am, and would be interested if anyone knows any other books a bit like this that I could read. But yeah, loved it, thought it was amazing, will be urging other people to read this. Number 8 is the first of 3 books of Daphne du Maurier that are appearing in this top 10. So previously to 2016, I'd never read a Daphne du Maurier book. Why? Daphne du Maurier is amazing. Like, amazing. Frenchman's Creek, which is at number 8 on my top 10 books, was, I believe, of all the books, is the most sort of like, not quite a parody of itself, but it's not quite as gothic or as I don't want to say serious because I don't find her other books serious, but it's more fun. I would guess you would say it was more fun. The storyline was more fun than the others. So this tells the story of Donna, Lady Donna, who lives in London and is bored of her life in London and decides to retreat to her husband's Cornish estate with her children. And when she gets down there, there is a pirate who is parking his boat in the creek and pillaging her neighbours' houses. She falls in love with this pirate. There's no pirate. And together they decide to embark upon a journey. And I loved it. It was really, really fun. I'm really pleased in the way in which I read the Daphne du Maurier's this year. So I read Jamaica Inn first, then Frenchman's Creek, then Rebecca. And this was just great fun and really, really loved it. And we'll be rereading it again. So yeah, great. The next book I read, which is number 7. Now, when I was reading this, and after talking, this is probably the book I've recommended to the most people this year. After I read this, I'm surprised it doesn't appear higher in my top 10, but that just goes to show how bloody good the next 6 books are after this book, because this I thought was probably going to be in the top 3, but all the others have overtaken it. So, blah, 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 blah. The book is Shelter by Yoon Yoon. This is a proof copy. It's much more beautiful than this. This was incredible. So it is a story about a chap, Kyung, who he is going through some money troubles. Him and his wife are having to sell their house that their young son lives in. And when the realtor comes round to look at the house and decide how much it can go for, when looking out in the garden, a lady turns up naked and in a bit of a state, and Kyung realises that it's his mother. And then this deals with the fallout from that. So I can't really go into much more details than that. If that doesn't grip you from that already, when people were describing it, I was like, bloody hell, I want to know what's happening there. Then please read. This is so interesting book about power, about family, about relationships. It's thrilling, it's page-turnery. I would describe this as a literary thriller, which is just like the two genres that I really enjoy together. This was always going to be an absolute winner for me. There's parts of it, so I can tell you this without giving much away, but there's so Kyung, as I said, is in lots of monetary woes, but his mother and father aren't. And there's a point where he goes to the supermarket with his father, and his father hasn't got his wallet with him, and he's having to buy things for his father, and his father's just sort of throwing things in a basket. And Kyung's like shitting himself, thinking, oh God, my credit card's not going to go through, that credit card's not going to go through. And when he gets to the till to pay, it's been built up so much throughout this sort of like journey down, up and down the aisles, putting things in the thing, that you think, oh my God, like his credit card's not going to be accepted, and you actually feel the panic that you imagine he would feel. Yoon Yoon is an amazing author, and I cannot wait to see what else she has to bring out. I just thought it was amazing, and I really, really would urge. This is, as I said, this is the book that I've been recommending the most people to read, and I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I really, really loved it. I can't wait for her to write some more. Amazing. Number 6 in the list is Jamaica Inn by Daphne du Maurier. So I read this book. David and I had a day. We took a day off in the summer. We're not big summer fans. We don't take summer holidays or anything, but we took a day off in the summer, in August, I believe, and went to a park, took a picnic. It was a boiling hot day. We sat under a tree. It was lovely. I cracked this out, hadn't started it. Opened the book. First line, it was a cold grey day in late November. Well, here I am on a boiling hot day in early August. How am I going to relate to this book? This book enveloped me in its Cornish Moors way. It is amazing. It absolutely transported me there. The only thing I will say is I will reread this again, and I will reread it in late November as a birthday treat to myself, because it's just amazing. It's absolutely transporting. It's wonderful. It's about a young lady, Mary Yellen, whose mother has recently died, and she has to move in with her uncle and aunt, her mother's sister. And when she gets down there, they live in a pub called the Jamaica Inn, which is a sort of base for criminals and smugglers and things like that. And she has sort of decisions to make based on being true to her family or doing what she sees as the right thing. And it's just amazing. Like, yeah, I really, really loved it. Completely page turnery. as I said, completely transporting, even for a girl reading it in the height of summer in a park somewhere. I loved it, and there's a bit of a love story in there as well, which isn't always my bag, but really fits well in here. So yeah, love Jamaica Inn. If you do anything in 2017, please read some Daphne du Maurier, please. The next book is book 5, which is a graphic novel, and it is The 100 Nights of Hero by Isabel Greenberg. I read the Encyclopedia of Early Earth last year, and that was in my top 10 books of 2015. The Encyclopedia of Early Earth, which is Isabel Greenberg's other graphic novel, is the first graphic novel that I ever read, and I adored it. I absolutely adored it. This I loved even more. I love her artwork. I love the colour palette she uses. I love the little in-jokes you get. I love everything about it. So this follows the 100 Nights of Heroes. It starts with two men talking about how their wives are the best wives, blah, 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 blah. I bet my wife wouldn't cheat on me. I bet I could get your wife to cheat on you. Okay, I'll give you 100 nights. And if she cheats on you, then we'll kill her. If she doesn't cheat on me, then you can have her, etc. And then when he goes to get the wife to cheat on the other man, God, it's so convoluted. Her lady's maid, who she's also in love with, says that she will tell the man a story every single night. Millie's trying to get into my backpack over there, and it is tiny, so I don't know how she's managing it. Minnie! I'll just let her get on with it. And she tells him a story every single night, and the stories are so gripping that after 100 nights, he doesn't even realise that 100 nights have gone by, and he's failed his task. It's got stories within stories. It's just wonderful. It's just amazing. If you're looking to get into graphic novels, God, this is really heavy. If you're looking to get into graphic novels, I would absolutely urge you to start with this or the Encyclopedia of Early Earth. They're just beautiful, beautiful pieces of work. Beautiful gifts, beautiful joy, beautiful wonderfulness. Absolutely loved it. Cannot recommend it enough. Number 4, almost in the top 3, almost making it to the top 3, is The Vegetarian by Han Kang. I have done a review of this book, and I will link that down below. This really amazed me when I first read it. So I'd heard lots and lots of hype about it, and finally got round to reading it, and absolutely adored it. It is about a woman in Korea who decides to become a vegetarian, which is sort of unheard of in her culture. It is a story that is told from 3 different points of view, never from the vegetarian lady herself, from her husband, from her sister's husband, and from her sister. And it just basically documents her mental decline and these people taking horrible advantage of her, basically, of her decline and their relationships. And what I found is that even though it's really horrible, the things that she's going through and her memories back to certain things, there's a completely serene and calm way about it. It really carries you through it, even though these awful things are happening. It blew me away. In a way, I was like, whoa, didn't expect it to happen. It's such a short little book. It's not even 200 pages, I don't think. It's not. It's 183 pages. And the amount they get across in here is just wonderful. And as a sort of whether or not you need an introduction to literary fiction, but I think this would be a really great start because it's not too long. And I sort of went to it thinking, well, everyone loves this. I wonder if I'll love it. I did. I bloody loved it. So that's number 3. Number 4, it's not number 3. So number 3 is a book that I don't have with me, and I'm sure you'll all be absolutely not shocked to hear that it is The Year of Living Danishly by Helen Russell. I listened to this on audiobook at the beginning of the year. I've since re-listened to the chapters on Hygge and the Christmas chapter. It is a book about a woman. It's a non-fiction book about a woman who moves to Denmark as her husband gets a job working for Legoland in rural Jutland in Denmark. She has moved from the UK and moves out there with him, and it's just set out amazing. It's set out how my brain likes to take in information. So they move in January, and it's set out through the months. Each chapter is a month, and each chapter addresses a different aspect of life in Denmark. So, for instance, when they first moved to Denmark in January, the first chapter is about hygge, which is something that's become super, super popular this year, and I'm sure you've all heard of it, which is basically about spending time with your family, blankets, fairy lights, candles, books, ambient lighting, etc. And the first chapter's about that. There's also chapters in there about healthcare, about the school system, about food, about going on holiday, about Christmas, which was an amazing chapter. I love that chapter. And it's just laid out brilliantly with so much information. Ellen Russell, I'm not quite sure of her age, but I imagine she is a woman of around my age, and she just sort of tells me the things that I would want to know. Would I move to another country? Would I move to Denmark? Yes, I would. I really, really love this. I listened to it on audiobook, and she's got another book out now called Leap Year, which I've got a proof copy of, but I may well listen to that on audiobook too, because I really did enjoy listening to the audiobook of it. It just ticked all the boxes for me. It sparked a love of Scandinavia that was latent inside me. I didn't even know I had it. And has just encouraged me to take better care of myself, I think, and to look at different lifestyles. I've got a book on hygge that I'm going to be reading throughout the year and applying aspects of that to my life. I just found it really interesting, and like everybody that I was speaking to around that time, I was like, did you know in Denmark, blah, 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 blah. Did you know that this happens in blah, 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 blah. It was just a joy to read, and I really, if you're looking for audiobooks to read, and you haven't listened to that, if you're looking for audiobooks to listen to and you haven't listened to that too, yeah, then I would really, really urge you to. It is wonderful. I absolutely adored it. Now, number 2 is a book that I also don't have, and that is The Tidal Zone by Sarah Moss. I have done a review on this book also, and I will link that down below. The Tidal Zone by Sarah Moss is another book that gave me the fizzy feels from when I started reading it. So I wasn't even sure I wanted to read it. I watched somebody's review of it, and I can't quite remember who it was, but somebody's review said, oh, if you have problems with books about death, or if you don't really like reading about death, then probably avoid this. And I was like, maybe I won't read that then. I'm not too hot on reading books that are like mainly based on death. But I went to the library, like at the height of it being really highly reviewed on BookTube, and when I was at the library, it was on the shelf, and I was like, oh, bloody hell, that's on the shelf, and that's really good. I'm going to get it out, maybe I won't read it. I got it out, and I went home, and I read like 3 pages, and I was bang into it. I love the narrative of it. I love the fact it was sort of semi-stream of consciousness, which is something that before this year I would totally have avoided. I love the semi-stream of consciousness of it. I love the perspective it was from. I loved the stories within stories. I loved the characters. I didn't love all the characters, but I loved even the characters that weren't perfect, and that's another thing I loved about it, the fact that the characters weren't perfect. I loved those guys too. So it is a story mainly about a young girl called Miriam who has an episode at school where her heart stops beating and she essentially dies for a few moments. She is brought back to life and taken to hospital, and they don't know what's wrong with her, so they keep her in. And it's that family living with the fact that this thing has happened to Miriam, who they call Mim, which I think is a wonderful abbreviation of a name. And they don't know what will happen to her, and could it happen again? It's on the run up to Christmas, so it's sort of like heightened with family then, and also it's told from a stay-at-home father's point of view. The mother is a GP and she is the main breadwinner for the family, and the stay-at-home father, it's told from his point of view, which is an interesting point of view that I hadn't heard from before, so I found that interesting. He is an occasional historical writer and is also doing he is also doing a piece on the restoration of Coventry Cathedral, which I thought, oh my god, those parts are going to be a complete yawn fest. I'm not going to be into those at all, and I really enjoyed those bits. I also enjoyed hearing from the point of view of Miriam's grandfather. As I said, there's stories within stories. You find out more about the older generations of the family throughout by stories told. It was just a wonderful piece of writing. Sarah Moss she's incredible, and I really, really loved it. I went out and bought it for my sister. My sister's read it. She's really enjoyed it, and yeah, it's just an amazing book. Amazing. Really, really, really loved it. Number 1. My number 1 favourite book of 2016, albeit my number 1 book of all time, is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. As I said earlier, I hadn't read any Daphne du Maurier before this year, and I sort of made it. I got these 3 in a box set: Rebecca, Frenchman's Creek, and Jamaica Inn. I bought these 3 in I think it was the Book People sale for a £5, and made it my ambition to read some Daphne du Maurier in 2016. Little did I know that these were going to be some of my favourite books of all time, and this probably is my favourite book of all time. She is an incredible gothic, sensual, I'm going to be saying sensual quite a lot, sensual writer who just evokes such feeling, and she's so transported, like you actually feel like you're there. And even things like the scents and the noises you can hear that she's describing, you actually feel like you're there. She is an incredible writer. She is so readable. One of the things I was worried about was going to sort of like a modern classic author is that I wouldn't be able to read it. This reads like I could just pick it up any time and just go for it. Like, this reads so easily, and if you're looking to get into classics and or modern classics, then this would be a great place to start. Aside from that, the storyline is just fantastic. So the storyline of this is so creepy, but also it's just amazing. So the storyline of this, you follow the main character, who is a girl whose name you never find out, and she is working as a companion to a bitter old lady, and they're on holiday. And while she's there, she meets a chap called Maximilian De Winter, and they quickly form a relationship. And at the end of her trip with this lady, Maximilian asks her to marry him. She accepts and moves back to his estate, which is called Manderley. I've got a Manderley candle here that I got from William and Joseph. Oh, it's so good. I was lighting that as I was reading it, which was just making the experience even more wonderful. She moves back to his estate, and where she tries to fill the shoes of his ex-wife, who died in a boating accident, whose name was Rebecca. She tries to fill the shoes in some ways. She and tries to do it without offending people. There's a staff at the estate, that some of which were very, very attached to Rebecca, and it's just about her trying to do the things that she can to become the lady of the house. And there's just so many twists and turns in there. There's a lady's maid in there called Mrs. Danvers, who was obsessed with Rebecca, who absolutely adored her. And then as the book goes on, you find out more and more about Rebecca, and it's just twisty, turny, amazing. It was just amazing. I read it with an absolutely joyful smile on my face. I must watch the Alfred Hitchcock film of this, because I bet in film version this is amazing. This is amazing as a book. So I imagine visually it would just be wonderful. This is a book I will be rereading and rereading and rereading. I am already planning on rereading it this year, because I just loved it so much. And like I said earlier, if you do anything in 2017, and just please read some Daphne du Maurier. She absolutely knocked my socks off, and I've already got 3 of her books lined up. I've got The King's General, The Scapegoat, and The House on the Strand all ready to go, because she was the highlight of my 2016 reading year. I absolutely adored reading her books, and I cannot urge you all enough to go and read them. So those are my favourite books for 2016. What were your favourite books for 2016? Have you read any of these books? Did you like them? Did you hate them? And I would love to hear from you and your favourite books. And I'll see you all again soon for another BookTube video.